women's standards are too high, or are they? There's an X post here which got me thinking about this topic by somebody called Mariam, and she said, men don't lose interest, they just realise they can't meet your standards. She's basically proposing that men never lose interest in a woman ever. It's just that the guy comes to understand the standards that woman has, realises he doesn't measure up, and so gets out of the situation, okay? That, I think, is what she's trying to say in the post. And predictably, because this kind of stuff is like a red rag to a bull, this has garnered a lot of attention on X, it's been retweeted, there's a bunch of replies, etc., etc. And there's a lot of quite angry guys in the comments underneath going on about female expectations, going on about, well, you know, maybe your expectations are too high, maybe if your standards are unrealistic, then why should I meet up with, why should I live up to them? You know, that kind of thing. And you see this all the time. You see this all the time across social media, particularly on platforms like X, where, you know, the red pill, if you like, has become sort of almost a cliche, really. I mean, you know, let's face it, the red pill is a pretty old concept now anyway, and yeah, you can argue the themes are universal, but I mean, this stuff has been done to death, and I think it's sort of mainstreamed now to a point where regular guys who are just on social media know the arguments, they understand this stuff, and they'll just sort of pitch in. So there's this big battle between the genders of like, well, your standards are too high, because, you know, there's this whole thing, women want 6'6", 6 figures, 6 foot tall, 6 inches long in the downstairs department. And a friend of my ex's used to say, we don't want 6'6", we want 7'7", 7 foot tall, 7 figure income, 7 inches in the downstairs department, if you know what I mean. And yeah, so, you know, guys get really excised about this and angry about it, and they will dedicate entire accounts. Sometimes, you know, entire YouTube channels are dedicated to try to pull women down, or entire Twitter accounts are dedicated to, you know, revealing the apparent idiocy behind or underneath these standards that modern women supposedly have, and often sometimes do have. My issue with all of this is very simple. What do you expect the woman to do? What do you expect this modern woman who has these expectations to do? If that's genuinely what she's attracted to, is she meant to lower her standards? Is she meant to go, oh, okay, well, a bunch of guys have replied to my tweet on X, so I'm now just going to go for the janitor who's earning, you know, 5 figures, and he's 4'9", and you know, he's not very good looking, but whatever, and he's out of shape. I mean, is that the solution to this? Is that what you guys are trying to advocate for? Because it's not really very practical, is it? It's just not really going to happen. So it just seems to me that all of the energy that gets used by these guys posting all this stuff and complaining about modern women, what are they saying? They're effectively saying, you guys should lower your standards so that I get a chance. So that's what they're saying, isn't it? And again, I mean, in a utopian world, maybe that would happen. Maybe we could imagine that happening. But in this world, it's just not going to happen. Okay, so I suppose my issue with it is, firstly, what do you guys expect? What do you want to happen? And secondly, given that it's a fruitless task and you're yelling into the abyss anyway, then wouldn't it be better to do something more useful with your time rather than just complaining about this? Now, it might be that they're not, you know, they're not on social media constantly. I mean, there's just such a vast group of people here that it's impossible to track the behaviour. It might be some of them aren't on social media the whole time, but they're on social media some of the time and they're just responding to it. But there are definitely trolls who, you know, their entire life seems to be dedicated to banging on about this stuff ad infinitum. The other thing about this as well is that it depends how much experience the individual guy has had. Okay? Depends how much experience the individual guys have, because an individual guy may have had a girlfriend who was supremely demanding in certain areas, and he's been burned by that, And then he sort of just attributes this to all women, and it gets locked into this. There's this massive sort of rebellion or rebellious type posting online by these guys. But a lot of these guys, because then you go to look at the sort of doomer black pill community, if you like, and a lot of those guys who imagine that it's just only about looks, or it's only about money, or if you've got money, then there's no problem at all in the dating arena. And that is a complete nonsense as well. Because we work with guys who are good looking and have money, and they're not going to get any action either. So if it was just about those elements, then those guys would be sorted. So again, I know from first-hand experience, because I actually, unlike a lot of these commentators online, I have a lot of personal experience, I have a lot of experience through my colleagues, and I also have a lot of experience through working with a bunch of guys all over the planet, okay? About 10 years ago, up to this day. All right, so, in terms of really seeing how things are on the ground, nobody has more experience than me in this stuff. Certainly none of these people posting on X. And the black pill stuff is, in the main, except for the very basic truism that, yes, women like good-looking men, is a load of nonsense, okay? And so it does lead me to question a little bit all of this other stuff, all of these complaints about female standards. It's like, well, have you just been burned by a couple of unfortunate incidents and now you're venting on social media? But again, venting and seeming to advocate or seeming to push for change that just isn't going to happen, because women have always, pre-social media, pre-internet, pre-everything else, women have always wanted to get the best deal that they can get in the dating marketplace, in the marriage marketplace, obviously, and so have men. I mean, this is the irony. The irony is that men also would like to get the best that they think that they can get in the marriage or the dating marketplace. That is, I guess in most cases, somebody who's pretty, somebody who's in good shape, somebody who's pleasant to be around, etc., etc. Men have always wanted that as well. And if a guy was faced with the choice between two women who wanted to, be intimate with him, and one of them was significantly better looking than the other, he would probably choose the more physically attractive one, okay? So men have standards as well. It's just that the excuse that guys give is like, oh, but guys are less, guys are more willing to compromise than women. Maybe, but it's because men have less options, all right? Now again, you could say, yes, but that's because of an unfair playing field in the dating market. Maybe true, but a lot of these guys aren't actually doing anything to help themselves out. They're not approaching, okay? They're not making new connections. They're not putting themselves out there. So it's no wonder they've got no options, all right? I don't want this to turn into some kind of, you do need to man up and you do need to meet her standards, because I recognize the difficulties that people face, and I don't want to be another speaker who hectors you and tries to fit a square peg into a round hole. I understand that it's difficult, I understand the pressures, but at the same time, firstly, self-development is non-negotiable, right? You have to do it, okay? That's the truth of the matter. You do have to pull yourself up, and if you are falling short in some area, then you need to address it. It's as simple as that. The market is as the market is. The other thing that is kind of annoying is that most of these guys are on the right. Most of these guys would decry communism, okay, or socialism, and I make no complaint about that, but most of these guys would absolutely decry communism, and yet what they are asking for is a kind of communism in dating, where everybody's given a fair chance, okay? It just doesn't work like that. Markets don't work like that. Do you know what I mean? Do you believe in free markets or not? Make your mind up. Which side are you on? The way that free markets work is that the best product is selected by the consumer, and the person providing that product makes money, and if it's a crap product, then you make less money or you go out of business. That's kind of how it works, isn't it? Now, yeah, you can talk about subsidies and things like this, but whatever, let's forget that. But fundamentally, how does capitalism work? It's survival of the fittest, it's Darwinism, isn't it? Okay, so there's no point sitting on the sidelines if you are not the fittest complaining about it, okay? It's undignified. It's unmanly. What's less masculine than complaining on social media because you feel like you've been left on the sidelines? Again, I feel like I'm hectoring you here, and that's not really what I want to do. I don't have any easy answers to this, by the way, but I just think that the outpouring of annoyance, the outpouring of resentment is a waste of time. You've heard the expression, you can't negotiate desire, right? Well, you can't, okay? So you certainly can't negotiate the desire of an entire gender. You can't say to an entire gender, I want you to not be attracted to guys who are over 6 foot and who, you know, look like a certain archetype and who make a certain amount of money. I want you to be attracted to me instead. You can't negotiate that. You can't force that to happen unless there was some kind of totalitarian state introduced, which probably some of these dudes would like because it would make their lives easier. It's just not going to happen. That's not how human nature works, okay? You have to work within the parameters that you've been given. So the options that you've got are to self-improve, to recognize, okay, it's no longer about having a stable job like it was for your father or your grandfather and being a good provider. You've got to bring something else to the table. You've got to bring a bit more pizzazz to the table. And it's about playing in marketplaces that are most open to you. This is maybe a bit of travel, maybe going to a different marketplace, maybe getting out of the bloody US for a while, you know, or Canada or wherever you are, and going somewhere where the playing field is a little bit more tipped in your direction, perhaps. As I say, you have to understand the futility of what you're doing. If you're one of these dudes, one of these many dudes who's replied to post on X, drag this girl through the coals for saying that she has these standards or implying that women have standards, then you've just wasted energy. You've just wasted 30 seconds or a minute of your life doing it. And mental bandwidth, completely wasted, all right? It's pointless. You have to, in any sphere in life, you have to accept life on life's terms, okay? You have to accept the rules of the game as they are laid out and play to win within the structure, or get out of the structure, okay? Get out of the structure entirely. What do you want? What do you really want? What is your end game? You want to get married? Why do you want to get married? What's so good about being married? You want to be in a long-term relationship? Long-term relationships are problematic. Why do you want that? Why do you want the thing so much, okay? Maybe you don't want the thing. Maybe if you examine the very innermost aspects of your soul, you would recognize that you don't actually want the thing at all. It's just society telling you you want the thing. And if you don't want the thing, then that makes you massively more powerful, okay? Because the person who needs least is always the winner. Don't be some chode who's banging on about this stuff on social media the whole time, because it's not going to change. It is antithetical to human nature and frankly naive to imagine that it could change, and you need to work on yourself. You need to put yourself out there more, so you've got more options, and you need to be smart in playing the game. And you also need to think about what your end game is anyway, because a lot of this stuff, a lot of these standards apply when women are selecting a long-term partner, okay? Now that might be what you think you really want, but why? You think your life's gonna magically get better because you've got a wife, because you've got a long-term girlfriend? Not necessarily. There's a lot of unhappy people out there. Be careful about what you wish for. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think, comments below. Do subscribe to the channels, and I will see you again soon. If you're interested in coaching with me, drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and we will speak soon. Bye-bye.